The Scorecard is live from Broadcasting House, and of course our conversation tonight, it revolves around cyberspace, cyber warfare, and of course cyber attacks. We are in the company of Chris Otieno, who is a security and safety expert, as well as Whitney Micheni, who is a political economist, and Professor Fred Ogola, who is a governance expert. Before we proceed further, we just want to bring Marie Yambo into the picture, and of course she's going to take us through your sentiments and of course a reminder of our question that we're asking you tonight. Marie Yambo.
Indeed, O'Brien. The question of the day today was, how did the recent cyber attack on the eCitizen platform affect you? So we have quite a number of you communicating, and Stephen Mwangi on Facebook says, I could not apply for birth certificate. Lewis Mutonyi is saying he tried to apply for a good conduct certificate and he was not able to go through. I'll just sample a few for now. We'll be sampling others later on in this program. But I have a question for Chris, because we talked about system vulnerabilities, which means that some of the weaknesses that can be identified to help organizations and even companies to be able to, can I say, buffer something of that sort. But if we have them standing at 452 million, what does that mean? Does it mean that our systems are not that safe? Because if it's increased from 58 million to 452, then for me that's a question. So what does that mean? Our security systems are not as safe, and that is why we did have the DDoS.
That's a question to Chris.
Chris, yes.
Chris, respond.
The question that she's asked is symbolic from the fact that we have gone ahead to securitization of our cybersecurity.
Those are big words.
Those are big words, but they are still there. Applying security in cybersecurity itself, isn't it? Right? So what we are saying, why the increase? The increase here would be attached the number of devices that are connected in the internet and their exposure of each to include that interaction, human systems, processes, and what works behind there, right? If I go, for example, into the net right now, and somebody asks me from a fake address that is very closely linked to mine, and I'm unable to detect that, it means I'll open a door, a back door, and somebody will access what they want to access. And these are the kind of tricks that they use, right? So the more devices that go into the internet, for example, mobile devices and other devices, the threat landscape keeps going up and up and up. That is why if we put figures, we put numerical values to them, the figure will keep increasing and increasing and increasing. If you look at 2005, it was 6 billion in terms of devices on the internet. In 2030, it will be 24 billion in terms of number of devices on the net and the persons using them. So the exposure, the threat landscape keeps growing and growing because of the dynamicity. Because more softwares keep coming in, more devices operating different times, operating systems keep coming in, and all that is pre-exposures.
Well, you still say it. Help us understand. I mean, when you look at the number of attacks that were recorded in 2017, I mean, there were about 5,000, and today you talked about how many million? 700?
Yeah.
700. And so this trend is likely to keep on growing. And so what best do we need to do then to ensure that we stay on the safe lane?
And even O'Brien, as Chris answers that, I think I would also want to understand at a personal level, what does it mean for me if my data is breached, for instance? And in particular, I would want to understand how identity theft works against an individual. Yes.
Right. Start with identity theft. Most of the time, our details, personal details, your ID number, your bank account number, your PIN number, most of us store it in our devices. And some of us go on to select our passwords in a very simple way. My year of birth becomes my password, right? And you remember these guys, what do? Most of the time they're guessing and they're guessing and they're guessing. They find access, they get access into your mobile phone with all that details. What does that mean? You are completely compromised. They can even take an ID in your name, report you having lost yours, and they get another one. And once they get that identity that belongs to you, then it means they'll be able to transact in your bank, they'll be able to go into social services, they'll be able to go into your M-Pesa, in any sphere that you operate in. they have that capability because of the details that they have. They can put all that detail in a card, produce another duplicate ATM card that has your details and your name, go to a bank, into your account, go to an ATM machine, punch in your password because they have it, and they get your money.
Very well. Thank you very much indeed. Maria, I mean, we should be coming back to you so that you can continue to give us more responses as to how Kenyans were affected by last week's incident. Now I'm coming back to Prof here. Look, as a country we have, multiple legislations that are supposed to deal with issues of cybercrime. And if you allow me, I'm going to go through some of them. One of them is the Kenya Information and Communications Act of 1998, the National Cybersecurity Strategy of 2014, which was reenacted back in 2022, the National Broadband Strategy of 2018, Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018, the Data Protection Act of 2019, as well as the National ICT Policy Guidelines of 2020 and the National Digital Master Plan of 2022. So in your own opinion, when you interrogate all these legislations, are they strong enough to protect this country from cyber attacks?
First of all, O'Brien, there's something we need to appreciate Kenya for. When I was analyzing data about what opportunities are there in every African country, there's a reason why Kenyans are progressing faster than Nigeria. Remember, one thing which is key is Kenya power. You might say whatever you want, but the fact that we have a stable power compared to the one in Nigeria, DRC, Congo, and the rest. Then secondly, the policy that came into government...
Why do you have to compare Kenya with Nigeria?
No, I'm just trying to tell you, because you see, Kenya has these attacks more than Nigeria. Why? Not that Nigeria is more secure, is that we have more adoption of IT because of Kenya power and fiber optic. So that fact that we are more digitized nation, that's why even become big target for many people. Remember, there are so many companies that are coming here, for example, startups in the ICT, Google, IBM. Look at all those big organizations setting up space in Kenya. It means Kenya is really lucrative for attack. But just because Kenyans are doing so well, according to me, it's not a policy thing. According to me, we know more than 80% of attacks are internal. And secondly, when someone has a device, there's what you call bring your own device. In a place of work, before you used to go to work, you're given a computer, you work from there, then you go home. But now we have this thing, bring your own device, where you come with your own computer, you come with your password, and the company may not know how safe or it's not safe, and you start using company's computer. So I think we need to strengthen some policies. For example, in UAE, you cannot have a WhatsApp call. I'm sure in Dubai, if you have a WhatsApp, it doesn't work. So I'm sure there's also these things of how people choose their passwords, how other people expose us. We also have people offer Wi-Fi which have no any security. Anybody can join it. That's why you can be told, for example, by Safaricom, when you're on certain Wi-Fi, you cannot access their app because they know the app is exposed. I'm sure that there will be more policies being passed on how individuals behave and also how companies behave, because let me tell you what, my brother, this is a collective thing. It can't be left in the hands of government, and Kenyans need to come back and say they're under attack. There's a time when Canadians discovered they were under attack, so when you met Canadians, they used to put on a hat showing they're Canadians, because people used to think Canadians are Americans. So when you want to attack an American, you might actually mistakenly attack a Canadian instead of attacking an American. So they came with ways to expose we are Canadians. So I'm sure that this is shared responsibility. Policies alone cannot help. And last but not least, we have to know that traffic lights came after traffic, which means that regulations, policies come after the innovation. So all these policies will always be behind the real threat. The threat will come if when you form policies for them. So we can never be more prepared for a threat. The only thing, sometimes I say, some part of it is what we can do, others we leave to God.
Whitney, if you can help us understand, I mean, Kenya is one of the most ICT connected countries in Africa. Almost everybody has a mobile phone. We are on multiple social media sites. Almost everyone has, a laptop or maybe a computer, TV, fridge, or all these technical gadgets. And so how then do we get to appraise ourselves or get to know how to protect ourselves from cyber attacks as Kenyans?
Thank you, O'Brien. Actually, a study was recently done, and it said, we recently saw that in the study, Kenyans prioritize having digital gadgets. It's higher in the priorities list than food. So it just shows you how important having a gadget is. And also, we know that in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, one of the key planks is the digital superhighway. They want to digitize Kenya more, and to make this the quote-unquote Silicon Savannah. So when you're coming to how can we abreast ourselves of cyber threats, cyber security, and also just to make sure that we are cyber resilient and we have that defense system. First of all, I'll just like to buttress what Prof has said. When you're going to public areas, you must check that you're not using Wi-Fi that is unsecure, especially if you're using mobile banking. First of all, I just want to back that up with data from the Central Bank of Kenya, which says that 3/4 of our GDP, that's about 9 trillion, is transacted digitally, which shows you how important this the digital space is. The fintech place has gotten a lot of clamor in Kenya. So first of all, when you're going to places, do not connect to the unsecure Wi-Fi networks. Secondly, in companies, we also have it's very important. Even though we have the ICT personnel, they must train the other staff members on how to just to have awareness of just the basic systems of cybersecurity. Meaning, if they're getting an email from some unauthorized people, they should not click those links or any other things. For government, you can check that they should benchmark with other maybe advanced economies to see how they're dealing with the cybersecurity, which new technology is emerging, so that which softwares are the latest, so that they can update themselves. We can also, of course, research and development, researching on the newest, as I've said, technology, and also capacity building of just everyone in this whole space, because as we've said, this is a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral thing. Everyone has to know that they have a part to play in this, be it the government or be it private sector.
Just to add on that, you finished, eh? Okay. Just to add on that, there's something that is happening in Kenya. I heard there's a company called, I don't know, the Coin Republic, where they are scanning people's eyes and giving people money. Worldcoin. Kenyans like free things, and also they like money. So let us try to avoid some of these things, because they can have repercussions, serious repercussions.
And I would like to support what she has said and relate that to what you say.
Yes.
The only thing that we can do here is be very objective about creating expertise in cybersecurity, taking more education to the ground on cybersecurity, and creating more awareness. Basically, capacity building. So why are those Kenyans going there to give out their digital, the iris? Iris, why are they going there?
Yes.
Why are they going there?
And in the same vein, I want also you to help us. When you look at major world powers, from China, Russia, India, United States, all these countries, they have now established what they're calling the National Cyberspace Defense Forces.
Yes.
Is it high time that even us as a country, we look into this avenue and we see how we can also set up our very own cyberspace defense force?
Absolutely. And we have said here that Kenya is really going so much in the digital economy. And what does that mean? It means if we don't take steps to protect ourselves to the fullest, then the more we go into that space, the more we predispose ourselves to more and more attacks. You have this digital market. We have Kenyan citizens who don't know the basics of what cybersecurity is. What does that person mean to us when he or she is in that platform? It means they're going to expose us and expose us completely. So we must take initiative. We must be very deliberate in investing in cyber defense.
And when you look at the Kenyan cyberspace, when you look at the kind of legislations that we have vis-a-vis the manpower or the technical expertise that we have, are you convinced that we are in a position to deter and to defeat cybercrime activities?
I believe we are in that position. The only problem we have is in the governance. Have the roles and responsibilities been segregated and distributed to the bare minimum, the grassroots? I would say no. Yes, we have policies, we have frameworks, we have governing, all that is in place, even expertise, but not the extent we would like to say. But then we are saying we are still predisposed because it is not the experts or the frameworks that will go into the net. It is the individuals. So we should backtrack and look at these individuals. What are we doing to capacity build them to the level that they can become our first line of defense?
Very good.
Towards cyberspace security.
Very good. Let's now go to Maria. I understand, you know, a number of people, you know, they also said something. What are they saying? What are Kenyans saying, actually?
Well, Kenyans are still sharing just what they experienced, you know, following the cyber attack that was last week on the e-citizen platform. And so DJ Masik says, I was applying for good conduct and it did not work out. So remember, in our previous sampling of your comments, there's somebody else who also said the same thing. So it looks like a lot of people definitely were affected by the breakdown of services on the e-citizen platform. Again, Joseph Kimani, I was trying to renew my driving license, but then again it did not work out. Naitwa Afa says he went to Huduma Center to have his ID, you know, replaced. Again, he was not able to, you know, access those services. So those are some of the, you know, reactions from our viewers back at home. And thank you so much for taking the time, you know, and interacting with us, you know. And my question again to Chris will be, how then is it important for companies, you know, organizations to look at the kind of operating systems that they install? Does that in some way affect your vulnerabilities when it comes to cybercrime?
Absolutely, it does affect your capabilities, right? What we are saying is that every company must have a policy of scalability. You scale your system in accordance with what is at play. If you operate with an old system, then you're susceptible to being cyber broken quite easily, and criminals will target you because you become a very easy threat to just go through and walk through.
And just to add what Chris is saying, according to me, I think the president may come with policies, like for example it has been done in Singapore and other countries, by saying that X percentage of, for example, pre-tax profit or any revenue should be attached to building on cybersecurity education, capacity building or something like that. Maybe you may have with a tax on how to tax something to put on cybersecurity. At the same time, you know, this is like somebody having access. So if I am protected, but you are weak, and yet these systems are highly integrated, someone use the weakest point. Kwa sababu Kiswahili nasema kama inavunjika wakati I don't know Swahili, but I'm saying that a rope gets cut at the point of weakness. So the attackers look for where is the weakest area to enter from. So we are not safe, none of us is safe until all of us actually have been made safe.
Absolutely.
And we need to have collective responsibility on this one.
A chain link is as strong as its weakest.
Yes, yes.
Before we go now to the scorecarding questions of the day, I also want to hear from you. You know, for the people who are watching this program, I want you to help them understand, number one, how do you know or how do you suspect that you have been attacked or you are almost getting attacked? And then number two, how are you supposed to react?
For you to know whether you've been attacked or not, like you said, you must have the basic awareness, the basic skills, back to basics, right? For example, we say this person was targeting to deny a service, and you've had fellow Kenyans posting on our Twitter handles and saying, I tried this, I never got it. It means they were successful, right? So how do I need to know that? First is know the threats, all right? How does malware work? What is malware in the first place, and how does it work? All right. If somebody sends me a mail telling me we want you to change your ATM pin because your main system is being maintained, is that something that I need to construe as legit, or what should be my detection tell me that is not legit?
Very well.
That level must be there, and if it is not there, the exposure will never cease to be there.
Very good. Exposure and of course being up to date. Well, time now to go to our two scorecarding questions of the night. And the first question goes to Whitney Micheli. Are Kenyan laws strong enough to deter cybercrime?
Thank you, Brian. I do believe that the policies are robust, but the implementation is where the weakest link is. So for the policies, I would give it 4, but for implementation, of course, that's that skills that ranks really low. Yes.
And so you give it what?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Very good. To Prof.
I told you that Kenya has some of the robust secession papers, very advanced papers, and I'm not having any doubt on how the level it is. In fact, people come to learn from here. They're going to go implement in their country. So you can give Kenya maybe 4. I think so. It's fair enough.
4 as well.
Yes.
I hope you didn't copy from.
No.
Very good. What about Otieno? Are Kenyan laws strong enough to deter cybercrime?
The Kenyans law are strong, but it's the implementation, the governance bit of it. How do we implement the strong laws that we have?
So how do you
that makes a difference? On a scale of 5, I would say 3.5.
3.5.
Yes.
The final question is, are Kenyan ICT infrastructure robust enough to deal with cybercrime? Let's start with Prof.
No. I think that this is where the weakness is. And remember, infrastructure is not just the hardware and the software. Infrastructure also has to do with behavior. Remember that hacking takes place more from the behavior and our reaction rate. So there I'll just give Kenya 2.
You give Kenya 2?
Yeah.
What about Michani?
I do concur with Prof. I do believe that the infrastructure is wanting, be it from the personnel end, or also just the resources which are allocated to cybersecurity or the software applications to upgrade. So I think I would give it a 2.5.
2.5. Very good. And to Chris, finally, are Kenyan ICT infrastructure robust enough to deter cybercrime?
We are robust enough. The only problem is the awareness and the usage. Yes. So if it is a rating, in terms of robustness, I would say we are at 5. But when it comes to how we use to deter, rate is about 1, with a lot of space for improvement and scaling.
Give it 1.
Yeah.
And Obran, just to add there, when Estonia was attacked, Estonia is a neighbor to Russia. They even put some servers, not just in Estonia, but also outside Estonia, for a backup. I'm sure in Kenya we have not considered that.
And that's also that raises another question.
Yeah.
How secure are your backup systems in another country?
Yeah, but that's
a conversation we shall have on another day. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, cybercrime is a quite evolving and a fast changing environment. And nobody, let me tell you this, nobody has the capacity to keep up with cybercrime. It is changing every second. It is changing every minute. The whole point is to be ready when the attack happens. Well, Mariambo, do you have to say anything else before we call it a night?
Yeah, just to reiterate what you've said and also what Chris has said in terms of, creating awareness, because for me, I feel like maybe that is where sometimes the gap is. Kenyans are aware how they're supposed to navigate these digital platforms, so that is going to be a challenge to, the agencies, the government, that are concerned to create that awareness, because at the end of the day, what we need to do is actually to create a cyber resilient society. So for me, that is what I would say. And thank you so much back at home for taking the time to interact with us. We hope to see you again next week. My name is Marie Yambo. Back to you, Brian.
Very good indeed. Thank you very much indeed, team, for joining us tonight. And of course, for spending your time this evening with us here to try and address this critical issue. Marie Yambo, thank you very much for taking us through the responses as well as through the numbers and statistics. Asante sana. From me, O'Brien Kimani, thank you so very much indeed for your time and of course for joining us and for your support. We'll see you again on Tuesday, same time right here on KBC Channel 1. Until then, have a good night.